Dennis Bryan. That's great. Thank you, Dennis. Welcome, everybody. It's so good to see you all here today. I can see why so many people want to rent this beautiful space. You have a beautiful space. And a beautiful people. And a beautiful life. You know, perspective is everything in being happy. And I guarantee that everyone in this room is more prosperous and more abundant than billions of people on the planet. Did everybody eat today? Or at least have the option of eating? So by definition, you outdid billions of people today. But let's not start on a down note. It's interesting that we're talking about emotions this month throughout the teaching, because I think sometimes there's this idea, especially if you grew up in sort of a non-demonstrative culture, if you grew up, let's say, Mediterranean, is Italian, or you know what I'm talking about, that much more emotionally demonstrative culture, you grew up around emotions, whereas I kind of grew up in a more white Anglo-Saxon culture where, things just, things are a little more stead, that there's this idea that somehow the spiritual life is one that is devoid of emotion. You just kind of go along at an even keel, and you do kind of go along at an even keel, but there are moments of emotion in life. One of my favorite parables is of a Buddhist monk. A master had just died, and the new master, second in charge, was walking with the young monk back to the monastery, and the new master was weeping, and after the funeral, and the young monk said, "I don't understand. Why are you crying?" And the master said, "Because I'm sad." So sometimes the enlightened response is to cry. Sometimes the enlightened response is to get angry. Sometimes the enlightened response is to feel fear. If we take an enlightened master, someone like Jesus the Christ, the Bible records him feeling all sorts of emotions. I think somebody had a baby. What's great about a baby is that they almost come in enlightened. Like when they have an emotion, they feel it, and then they express it, and then it moves through them, and then they move on. What happens with us as adults is we have baggage. We feel it, it processes it, it gets complicated, and then it gets neurotic, and we take it out on somebody else. But we're talking about happiness today. So here's something that everyone needs to know. The illusion of human life is that when I get the money, the job, when I reach goal weight, when I get the award, when I get the relationship, when this happens on the outside, then I will be happy. That is the fundamental illusion of life. Now, those things are all wonderful, but anyone who's ever gotten something that they thought would make them happy found out that that feeling was pretty fleeting. Because when you receive something in a certain consciousness, that is what and how you will experience that something. That's the mental equivalence of your ability to take it in. Anyone who's ever achieved some great achievement or received some great something has, within a very short time, said, well, what's next? Or I'm going to lose it now that I have it. Someone's going to take it from me. Because the nature of the human experience is to wonder what's next. It's to reach for more. It's to there's that fear-based response. But there are people who go through life who aren't particularly trying to achieve anything, but are just very happy people. I know you know who these people are. Because the source of happiness is not about what's outside of us. All happiness comes from within. Now, if something happens on the outside and then we feel happy, it's not because anything on the outside did anything to us. It's because we allowed the happiness to flow. Well, what I'm here to tell you is that you can just let that happiness flow today. In fact, through the law of attraction, the more you let that happiness flow, the more you will attract to yourselves reason to be happy. And through the laws of psychology, because what's psychologically smart and what's spiritually smart are the same, your filters will clear up, so you'll see more reasons to be happy. Ernest Holmes says in the Science of Mind textbook, everything necessary for the most boundless experience of joy is already mine now. So everything necessary for the most boundless experience of joy is already ours. It doesn't matter what else happens or what else you receive, it's already in here. It's funny, I'm taking in school right now a class on Hinduism, and I've taken classes on Buddhism and other religions as part of school, and the fundamental emotional state of the universe is bliss. Joy is the fundamental state of the universe. So if we do nothing, if we add none of the human neurosis and none of the fear, joy is what percolates up. I don't know about anybody else. Who here was taught that we were put on earth to suffer? Because apparently some ancestor ate the wrong piece of fruit. No, I'm serious. Many of us were taught or mistaught that life is supposed to be hard. It was funny, one of my least favorite sayings is, well, you know, and it's meant well. It says, well, God doesn't give you more than you can handle. It's if God is like load testing us with negative experiences. Oh, wow, they've mastered that. Okay, they're ready for level 3. Zap! There's nothing in the universe that is trying to load test you with suffering. There's no character development in the universe like, wow, we're going to really build their character by putting them through this trial and tribulation. I mean, we do go through trials and tribulations in life because this world that we've created is not a perfect manifestation because we as human beings are evolving and growing and have not totally owned our perfection. So collectively, we created an imperfect world. So we do experience, we've just been through a 2-year pandemic. There was a mass shooting last night. Even smaller things like, people with, the price of gas or whatever you people want to complain about, large and small. I'm not delusional. Human beings individually and collectively have not achieved or owned their perfection. They don't live in a state of enlightenment and love, so therefore collectively we've not created a perfect world. But we will get there. The state of human evolution is one towards greater happiness. The choice we have, individually and collectively, is how much time it's going to take. We can do it today. We can do it within one lifetime. We could do it within 1,000 lifetimes, I suppose. But we can embody happiness today. There are 4 stages to spiritual development. And you probably may have heard these before, but there are 4 basic stages of spiritual development. Our relationship to God, to spirit, to universe, but there are 4 stages. The first one is our relationship to God is the universe is called at me. Like, God is, it's doing things, at us. And we tend to have a victim relationship with the universe. And our relationship with God is very much, God, please do this for me. God, please protect me from this. God, help me, help me, help me. Things are terrible. Help. God's calling. And that's the way most people pray. Now, when we get into this teaching, we start learning about, the power of healing thought, the power of affirmative prayer, the power of meditation. Then go into phase 2, which is called by me. We no longer live in a place of victimization. We start realizing, hey, if I change my consciousness, I can change what I'm demonstrating. So I'm going to start doing affirmations for a new car, for the right relationship. And then all of a sudden we start kind of like parking space. So we start thinking we can kind of like create things into our lives. Now this is where happiness is going to come. We start thinking, I'm going to create all the stuff that's going to make me happy. Anybody here ever prayed for something, received it, and then prayed to get rid of it? Or like, wait, God, I don't think you got my order right. I prayed for this and it didn't turn out the way I wanted. You must have made a mistake. But so the point is, we learn that thoughts have power, that we're not victims in the universe, we have power. But the third stage, and this is where people in our deepening, we realize, you know what, I don't always know best in life. And we start asking questions like, God, spirit, divine intelligence, use me. You know how my talents, skills, and abilities can best be used. You know how I can best serve other people, because serving other people makes me feel good. It makes me feel worthy. You know how I can best, this world needs a lot of help. I don't know how I can best be of service. Use me. And then we start, we get involved locally. We visit hospitals. We take care of our families. We take care of our communities. Or we do some other kind of work. And we experience God moving through us. We experience the joy of God. If you ever want to feel happy, get out of your self-obsession by being of service to somebody else. People just start feeling lighter because they're no longer like obsessing about their own problems. But then the fourth stage, and it's like where we no longer perceive any sense of separation between ourselves and God, Spirit, the universe. It's called as-me. We just live in this space of the divine flow, of our oneness with God and with each other. Now, on the spiritual journey, we tend to bounce back and forth between these stages. They're not events, not like, okay, now I'm entering a new stage, like a transformer. It's like we kind of like in consciousness go back and forth. When we're early in the journey, we kind of still spend a lot of time in phase one, where we're kind of victimized. What happens with enlightened masters is they just live in that as-me place. That's all they have. And that's where we're eventually growing to. So we can make the commitment to experience the happiness and the joy of God right here today. It's a choice we make. Now, there will be moments in life, because this is not a perfect world, where we may have fear, anger, sadness, and all kinds of emotions, but our default state can be happiness, where we can know that we are basically happy people. We've all know people who are just basically happy people, right? Well, they made a commitment to happiness. They may not even know that they've done that, but they've made a commitment to that happiness. What are some things that we can do? Well, I have a daily gratitude list that I do. I've got some gratitude buddies, and every morning we send a list of things that we're grateful for. That's a great spiritual tool because it starts your day in gratitude. Gratitude is a very powerful, underrated spiritual tool. Forgiveness. We don't talk enough about forgiveness in this particular teaching, when it is the fundamental pathway to miracles and spiritual transformation. Because we have to be willing to let go of our beliefs and our emotions in order to experience new consciousness and new pathways. Because sometimes forgiveness, we will have an emotional release, and then there's a peace that comes over us, and then we can let the good feelings flow again. Forgiveness does not mean condoning bad behavior. It means we're willing to move on because we don't want to be in pain anymore. Affirmations. We train our brain, like any other muscle, to think along lines of reasons to be happy. Prayer, meditation. And if you really want to feel happy, give it to somebody else. Find reasons to make other people happy. There's literally nothing God ordained in this world. There's no suffering that is God ordained in this world. And find humor. laugh a lot more. You know, funny people, that's God's work. If somebody makes you laugh, a good comedian, whatever makes you laugh, that is God's work. There's an old saying that, you know, mankind fell from the Garden of Eden the moment that he forgot to laugh, when they felt that shame, when things got overly serious. And act as if. If all else fails, act as if you're happy. Seriously, act as if you're happy. And then sooner or later, one of these days, when you act as if you're happy, you're going to realize, wait a minute, I am happy. Because it's like it's training any other reflexive emotional muscular. We're talking about emotions this week. We're doing emotional we're working on the muscles of our emotions. I don't even know if that's a thing, but it's a thing. You know, and let's be honest, sometimes we need to get outside help. There's no shame in this. Sometimes people think, well, I'm on a spiritual path. I shouldn't have to see a therapist. I shouldn't have to go to a psychologist. We in this teaching do not put down any form of healing modality. Sometimes God heals through the doctor, the lawyer, the accountant, the police officer, the therapist. You know, that could be God's way of processing whatever we need processing to heal so we can get back to baby state, where emotions flow through us and we can get back to our natural state of happiness. Also, find the fun in what you're doing. If you're doing a boring remote task at your job, and I'm assuming everyone here has at least had one job in their lifetime where they've had a boring rote task to do. If you haven't, congratulations. Find the fun in it, or make it fun. Commit to the fun in everything. Commit to the fun in your chores. Whistle while you work. It's all about fun. And then finally, find what makes you happy. What makes you happy may not be what makes me happy or the person next to you happy, because you're all unique individualizations of spirit. All of you have a unique way that God expresses through you, and expressing that is what will make you happy. And so let's find out what that is. And to do that, I want to conclude my talk with just a little tiny process. So if you close your eyes, so imagine that there's a big ball of light in your heart. And that light is joy. And it expands. And it fills up your entire body. And it fills up your mind. And it combines with the light of the person sitting next to you and everyone else in this room. And this joy keeps expanding beyond this building, out into the neighborhood, out into the city, out into the state, out into this country, out into this planet, out into this solar system, out into our galaxy, and beyond. And we ask this joy, this presence within us and around us, what makes me feel happy? How does this joy reveal itself through my work? How does this joy reveal itself through my relationships? How does this joy reveal itself through my health and well-being? How does this joy reveal itself through the world? Is there any person I need to forgive, including myself, so that I may be happy? And we give thanks to be in touch with our own joy. We know that our own joy will speak to us in the language of our heart. And we embody this joy. We embody our happiness. And we commit to it in everything we do, everything we say, everything we see, and everything we are. And we release this process into a perfect law, and we allow it to be. And so it is. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to speak to you.